Hey everyone, and welcome to this edition. Amadeus and I are here, and Amadeus, it's a Tuesday, which means there's not a lot going on.
Yeah, definitely a bit of a boring Tuesday, but was a little bit of an exciting finish to the NFL game last night.
Yeah,
So look at that. Drew Lock pulls off the game-winning
the
drive.
the Houdini Act, yeah, and it's it's been that kind of year though. To be fair, been a lot of last second heroics and last second stupidity, but um, we are, and yesterday you talked about the parity in the NFL, and if you look at this week's power rankings, pretty much it parrots what you said.
Yeah, there's a ton of parity just in the AFC alone. Just
Oh,
look
for
at how
sure.
many 8 and 6 teams there are,
Yeah.
and yeah, probably not. Sorry, the NFC not as strong as the AFC,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but still, a lot of teams in that 6 and 8 to 8 and 6 range. So just a handful are really the three lost kind of teams.
Well, in the proverbial "I need to get a life" category, I looked up a couple stats this morning, and here we are. Heading into there's only basically 3 weeks left in the season, and there hasn't been in 10 years this many teams still alive for the for a playoff spot.
Yeah, and the other thing I've been keeping note of myself because I thought we were finally going to have
Mm-hmm.
one on the weekend, but it didn't pan out. Is this if this is like the first year in the last few seasons where there hasn't been a tie this year,
That's true. That's absolutely true. Now,
and that has
from
come into play at the end of the season, like the past few
a
years as
number of
well.
times, yeah. Let me ask you a question from a gaming standpoint, right? Um, does is parody a good thing or a bad thing?
It really depends, right? Parity
Mm-hmm.
can be a great thing, obviously, because if you have two even teams, it all depends on the handicapper as well. Because
Sure.
if you have two even teams going up against each other, you can
Mm-hmm.
really lean into the situational spots a little bit more because if they're going to be matched up evenly, then
Mm-hmm.
those kind of things are going to come into factor compared to some of these games with the Ravens we've seen where
Mm-hmm.
they're going up against a team with a bad run defense and it's just a recipe for disaster against the Ravens. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's different ways to handicap, but yeah, I think parity helps the situational spots definitely.
Well, let me tell you from a television standpoint. Okay, assuming, of course, that any two teams who play in the NFL will draw ratings. There's no question about that. But a lot of people keep saying we want to see, you know, the Jacksonvilles or or the Tennessee or the Minnesota. Any pick a team that isn't one of the quote unquote blue blood teams, right? We want to see them. We want to see the. We don't want to see the same teams every year, right? That doesn't bear out in the ratings. In the ratings, the Cowboys, the Steelers, the Green Bay Packers, the up until recently the Patriots. Um, those are your teams. I mean, those are the teams that consistently draw ratings, and you can make a case where oh gosh, isn't it great that so and so is competitive this year? Absolutely, no question about it. Does that translate into people really want to watch them, even though they say that that's what we want? No, and that's never been the case, frankly, in any other sport, with the exception of college basketball.
Yeah, I think it all depends too, right? Like you say you want to see the Jaguars and teams like that, the Titans, and then
Right,
you finally get like the Titans versus the Panthers,
right.
and they really they dog you on the matchup there. So Yeah, I mean, you're always gonna get those situations. How we ended up with the Giants, 5
Mm-hmm.
prime time this year, I'll never understand. Yet my Cardinals got completely shoved off the prime time list all year.
It might have something to do with the networks are located in New York.
Yeah, just a little bit, but
Just
that's good.
saying, you
Everybody
know,
got to see how bad your two teams sucked this
just
year.
saying, yeah.
So that's fine if you want to keep showing those teams. But I think yeah, I totally agree with you, and I think you're going to see probably the blue bloods, if you want to call it that, of
Mm-hmm.
the NFL. But I think there's also some new ones, like as you
Mm-hmm.
said, the Patriots not so much. The
Mm-hmm.
Chiefs have replaced the Patriots, right?
That's
The
true. Yeah.
Bills are starting to become a bit of a
Right.
draw there. Everybody wants to see,
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen, this crazy freak
Right.
at quarterback. How are you going to tackle this guy? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, definitely. Obviously, there's always gonna be ratings for the Cowboys and the 49ers, but I think,
Right.
yeah, definitely these teams like, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Dolphins, even with their, track star team.
Well, the Dolphins. There's usually a team, right, that sneaks into the blue blood category for a while. A couple, 2, 3 years, and then they fall out of it. That was the Buccaneers because of Tom Brady. People who never watched a Buccaneer game or couldn't care about or couldn't name three guys on the team suddenly was watching, you know, the um, the Buccaneers. Kansas City, as you said, they've established themselves as someone that year in and year out continues to make it to the playoffs, continues to make Super Bowl type runs. That gets you there. More recently, on a year that we know they're winning football games, but they're not dominating as they have in the past. You get the Taylor Swift bump, which in this case has made a difference. And with regard to, as I said before, the Dolphins, because of that, that track team they have in Miami, they're fun to watch. So yeah, I mean, there's going to be. I think you made a good point in that there's going to be some teams that year in and year out are going to be there regardless. It doesn't matter if they're Super Bowl contenders or 8-8, right? They don't care. But the new guys on the block kind of sneak in there. People like them for a while, and then they kind of fall out because they just can't keep consistent. Now we've got San Francisco number one, Baltimore number two this week's poll, and they're going to play each other this week. So that one of them is not going to be there probably in the top two next week. But that's kind of what we're getting here. We're getting these teams are actually going to face each other. Some of these teams that we call blue bloods or whatever are going to face teams that are going to give them a challenge in the final 3 weeks of the season, and I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot more of those matchups this year for sure. Obviously, we saw the Super Bowl rematch of the Eagles and
Mm-hmm.
the Chiefs, and the Bills and the Chiefs, and yeah, if you look at a lot of these teams, just like the Bills, the Eagles, the
Mm-hmm.
Niners, the Ravens, they play a tough schedule. Even the Lions, they play a
Mm-hmm.
tough schedule coming down the stretch here. And I think a big part of that is because a lot of people have complained in the past about how you get these situations where the last week is always meaningless. It's usually
Mm-hmm.
just a week for people to rest, right? And so you get these last, usually 3 of the last 4 games of the season tend to be divisional games, and then
Mm-hmm.
you get these meaningless games in there. And plus, people have been complaining about weak schedules for some of these strong
Mm-hmm.
teams. So yeah, this year you're really seeing it. The NFL said, okay, we're gonna have all the strong teams play each other near the end of the season and have divisional games, and look at where the situation we're in.
Mm-hmm.
The wild card teams are pretty much not going to be able to rest at all in the final week. There's going to be a ton of teams who have
Mm-hmm.
something to play for in the final week here. So
We were talking about the rating aspect too. Uh, Here's some of the problems. You've got we number two on the power rankings. Of course, we talked about Baltimore, right? But Baltimore's market you can't go 70 miles in any direction and not bump into another team. You go 70 miles north, or frankly, north and west, and you're bumped by the Eagles. You go 70 miles to the west, and again, you don't get that far because you're bumped by the Steelers. You can't go 70 miles to the south because it's not even 70 miles to the south to Washington. And as crazy as it sounds, yeah, the Commanders have been around for a long time. So there's that. Jacksonville, in some regards, has a similar problem. They can't go 70 miles south because Orlando is a Tampa Bay market. They go north, they have to be careful because they got the Atlanta Falcons. You can't. So I'm sorry, not west, east. Tallahassee, Pensacola, out that route, but you got to be careful there because you go too far out and you start bumping into New Orleans. I mean, sorry, yeah, New Orleans. So there are markets where the teams are playing well, but not a lot of people get to see them, even in their home market.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely is a big thing. And going back to the Ravens,
Hmm.
the Steelers are in their division, so it's not
Right.
only a matter of there's another NFL market that close, but you got
Right.
you got literally a division rival
You
right
got your
there. So
fans, you got your fans bumping up against the Steelers.
yeah, it's not like it's just another NFL team. No, it's a team you hate with a passion. So yeah,
Here's the good thing about that, though. And the NFL does a lot of things right. Some things they do wrong. But when they paired this group together, you got Cleveland, Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh. They can drive. That's if you're a fan base of these any one of those four teams, any team in your conference in your division is accessible. You can drive there, and you can attend games that are road games. And believe me, the buses leaving Baltimore for Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh to go to Cincinnati and Cincinnati to go to Cleveland, it's you know you can see the buses going and you can see the cars and trucks with their flags headed northeast, south, and west, which makes I think that division probably more unique than any other because you are talking about the furthest distance is about 3 hours away. Well, maybe 4 hours depending on traffic to to Cleveland and Baltimore.
yeah, definitely it helps out the fans because obviously
Hmm.
a lot of those fan bases tend to travel anyway. But
Right.
you definitely make it a lot easier on them when they don't have to go too far, right? Just the state over, as opposed to hopping on a
Hmm.
plane and having to go across the country to go watch
Right.
them in SoFi or something.
Well, it also brings a bit of a college feel to it because you really do have rivals, and these four teams really do dislike each other, which makes it even more fun to watch them play.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, so number three, I I'm not buying this, but okay, I'll throw it out there. Kansas City's number three at 9-5.
How?
Don't ask me because they're Kansas City.
All right. Obviously, we don't watch the NFL. That's okay. Not it's a lot of games. It's tough
We
to
should
watch them
we
all.
should yeah we should be paying more attention to them. Maybe they should put Taylor Swift's Kansas City Chiefs. Maybe that's what bumps them up. I don't know. Here's another one. And look, no shade on the team. We have been fans of the Detroit Lions, but we haven't bought the Detroit Lions. And they're going to be in Minnesota next week. And they're number four on the hit parade. The number five team is the team we talked about yesterday. It's Dak Prescott and the boys. They're number five, which ranks them above the Eagles, who have not played well over the past few weeks.
Yeah. So it's hilarious how you get on a little skid and all of a sudden the Eagles aren't in the top 5. This team, what happened a few weeks ago? This was the best team in the
The
NFL.
49, yeah, the 49ers were behind them last for a long time.
Yeah.
For
So
that
look,
bump when who was injured, the wide receiver.
um, Debo for the 49ers, Debo
Yeah,
Samuel
it was
was out
Debo.
with that.
Yeah, Debo was out, and they had lost a couple games, and people were saying, "Well, Brock Purdy isn't as good as he used to be." Well, give him time, and they figured it out, and the
Now he's in the
49ers are back.
MVP
Yeah,
conversation.
right. Now Dallas plays Miami this week, which should be very entertaining. And you brought this up yesterday that Dallas, has not been as prolific on the road as they are at home.
Yeah, definitely. They've struggled on the road this year. Obviously, with their 3-4 record there in road games, we saw them go up to Buffalo and have a tough time. Um, but it'll be definitely interesting for them just because the Dolphins have a very good running game. The Lions
Mm-hmm.
have a very good running game. These are the teams
Right.
they close the season with. So
Right.
yeah, like we saw what these teams with running. My Cardinals beat them,
Yeah.
and that's all they do well is run the ball. They do nothing else well. Okay, they don't play defense and they don't pass well. So that's I think that speaks volumes in itself. But yeah, this is where the tier system starts to come into play.
Right.
Because like personally, like I said, I think the 49ers are the best. The Ravens are a clear number 2. And honestly, it doesn't really matter what happens this
You
weekend
you
because
could
that's
shake them up and roll them out, and it doesn't matter where they come up.
yeah, either team could blow out the other, and I'd
Mm-hmm.
still have them 1-2. There's no reason to drop. Oh, the Ravens or the Niners lost. Got to put them in 7 in the power rankings now, right? Because that's just how it works. Can't just stay in the spot. But that yeah,
I
like
uh, I heard something which was quite funny that Shanahan said the other day after the game. They were asking if he's concerned about seeding and all that stuff for the playoffs. He goes, well, first of all, he goes, let's don't talk about the playoffs. He goes, and second of all, if we end up in the number 2 slot, I absolutely believe that Alabama would be given our slot over us. So he got a lot of people chuckling about the fact that Alabama's even a possible playoff team in the NFL. So you know the SEC has their ways.
little
Little,
shot at the college
little
football playoff
dig, yeah,
there.
little dig at the college football playoffs. The Eagles. I don't know if you would call this a breather or not, but they get the Giants at home this week, so I'm going to say it's a breather. The Dolphins, number 7, they don't have a breather. They have to entertain Dallas. The Cleveland Browns, who would have thunk it? Joe Flacco's Cleveland Browns are in the number 8 position.
Interesting.
I know there's not much to
They
say.
still don't have an
Speechless,
offense.
speechless.
Their defense is very good, but like their
Mhm.
offense, like I said, we got a whole career's worth of Flacco in their
Right,
last game. They were lucky to even come back and win. You don't know what Flacco you're gonna get on any given Sunday.
right, and you know, Cleveland stockpiling tight. They got 5 tight ends. I don't know that there's a team in professional football that has 5. There may not be a team in college where they have an unlimited amount of players that you can dress. That has 5 tight ends.
Yeah, it just goes to show because they don't have a quarterback. You don't need wide receivers when you're
Well,
starting 4 quarterbacks.
or you've got a quarterback that throws the ball 10 yards. You know,
Yeah, that too.
so you play
Same
this
guy
guy.
every time.
Now here's where you got me totally flummoxed. Jacksonville is at number 9, which by the way puts them ahead of the Buffalo Bills, who are number 10. Spoiler alert: there's your top 10,
I
and
mean,
the Bengals are 11, by the way.
I think the Jaguars are a very good team. They're dealing with injuries, right? That's the thing with a lot of these teams. The Jaguars, obviously, Trevor Lawrence has been playing banged up. Christian Kirk's now out for the season. Um, there's a bunch that are starting to get the injury bug, which is
Mm-hmm.
what's really hurting a lot of these teams. I think in the power rankings anyway. But yeah, this is why I use the tier system, right? Like I say, to have the Chiefs as like a clear cut number 3, and to say the Browns are better than the Jaguars, I actually think the Jaguars are a better overall team. Like I said, they're just dealing with injuries. But look at how many other teams are dealing with injuries. Obviously, the
Mm-hmm.
entire AFC North,
Mm-hmm.
besides the Ravens, but even the Ravens, Keaton Mitchell just tore his
Right.
ACL, and he was really starting to break out as a running
Right.
back. So the Browns, they're still going strong with that run game. They don't really have a
Mm-hmm.
running back, but they're finding ways to run the
They're
ball.
they're fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like the Bengals, like these are teams that they're getting by with what they have, but to that's why we use the tier system, because to
Yeah.
call one flat out better than the other, I think is a little ridiculous.
Right. I mean, I would offer this as a if you're a Jaguars fan. The past 3 games the Jaguars played, the Jaguars beat the Jaguars. Okay. Um, they left 12 points on the field at the first half, and they were losing 13-0 to the Ravens. Okay, at halftime. So if you look at what they did, I mean, you've got situations where Trevor Lawrence runs 12 yards for a first down and literally drops the football. You know, so every time you did something, they got inside the at least a field goal range, right? On the first 4 drives, they had the ball, and they didn't score a single point. So I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? I want to bring up another example here with
Sure.
the with just so the Chiefs are number 3, and
Mm-hmm.
you have the Bills at number 10.
Right.
The Bills won in Kansas City 2 weeks ago, so that win means
That
nothing.
is
And
not
then,
lost. That is not lost on me. And they beat Dallas
yes,
last Sunday.
frankly, they look like one of the more dangerous teams in the NFL coming down this final stretch of the season.
I'm betting nobody wants to play them. I mean, this is one of the. Please don't have the Bills on our schedule for the rest of the year. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so just like to say that in alone in itself, because
Mm-hmm.
I think the Bills are a better team than the Chiefs, and I would even put them in a higher tier. So how you
Mm-hmm.
get that kind of, and to think, like, even if you're just going by the records,
Right.
the eye test, we've seen it would dictate the Chiefs
Mm-hmm.
they're not even close to the top 5 team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just going to base it on records, well, the Chiefs are 9-5, and they left out. Let's see, 1 the Dolphins, 2 the Cowboys, 3
Mm-hmm.
the Eagles, and
Right.
4 with the Lions. 4 double-digit win teams
Mm-hmm.
below the Chiefs. The Chiefs are not going to do anything this year. Like I don't
Right.
understand. We've seen it all season. There's been problems with the wide receivers. Kadarius Toney's obviously a problem, but it's not just him. They've had problems with drops. There's not a clear number 1. Kelsey leads the team in receiving yards.
Right.
That's a problem. Okay, as great as he is as a player, a tight end should not be leading your team in receiving. That's a big problem, and it speaks volumes on itself.
Well, the other part to your point, which is a good solid point, is that you can't, playing like that with your tight end normally means that you have a strong running attack, or that you don't have a quarterback, so that what you're doing is you're managing a game, right? You got arguably one of, if not the best quarterback in NFL football right now playing for you in Patrick Mahomes. So it's not the quarterback's fault. It's not the tight end's fault. It's either the scheme's fault, or it's the lack, as you said, of wide receivers. And that team has taken a downward slide ever since their star wide receiver go south to Miami to play for them.
Yeah.
And it's. I'm not sitting here prognosticating that that's happened. I mean, that's an absolute and total fact.
Yeah, and it's not, it doesn't just boil down to all that. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you lost probably one of the best wide receivers in the
Mm-hmm.
game in Tyreek Hill, but you came into the season really with not a strong wide receiver group, and on top of that, you lost your offensive coordinator in the offseason, which
Right.
people seem to forget. He's making
Bieniemy,
Sam
yeah.
Howell look pretty good in some of these games
Yeah.
on a very bad Commanders team. So
As we said, the next coach, from our standpoint, the next coach of the Commanders.
and things like that matter, because, like, yeah, I know they started the season 10-4, but look at the Eagles. They lost their offensive coordinator and their defensive coordinator, and look what the offensive coordinator's doing down in Indianapolis. So not gonna bring up Gannon on the Cardinals, because he's, the defense is terrible, and I didn't like the hire personally, but Shane Steichen is killing it. That was that was an Eagles team that lost their offensive coordinator, and we've
Right.
seen the offense scrape by in a lot of games this year. It hasn't looked right, hasn't looked the same. That's the offensive coordinator. Look at the Colts. They've completely turned their season around. That's the offensive coordinator. And again, you use the example with Bieniemy and Howell. It's a problem. The Chiefs have a massive problem on offense. And if you don't believe me, then believe Patrick Mahomes, who in their Germany game was talking about how the defense played great and we've had offensive problems. So trust me, the team knows where they are as a team. And everybody can crown them, top 3 in the NFL, but they know where they are in the league. They know they're a middle of the pack team right now.
Right. I mean, the one thing too that kind of gets lost with the Ravens is that they brought in a new offensive coordinator this year, and they came from college. They brought the OC from the University of Georgia in.
And you know what? It doesn't always work out, but sometimes it does, and that's what we're seeing with the Ravens, because not only do they have one of the best offenses in the NFL, they have one of the most balanced offenses, just like the 49ers.
Well, it's funny. In the interview, and I had spoken to some people about the interview, I mean, he was given an interview. I mean, you don't not give an interview to, a guy who's created an offense that has won the college football championship the last 2 years. So you clearly, you're going to listen to him. You may not hire him, but you're going to listen to him. And the first question pertaining to him and posed to him by John Harbaugh was, do you see anything we're not doing right that you could fix? He goes, you don't know how to run. I could fix that. He goes, you don't know how to run a run-pass option. I can fix that. You don't know how to keep Lamar Jackson from getting hurt. I can fix that. And suddenly they're like, wait a minute. This guy actually came here with a plan. And, there's things in college that you do that when you get to the pros, you usually get away from it. And those teams that you talked about, the 49ers and others who have the running games, running along with defense travels well, and certainly travels well when you get into cold months of the NFL season. And I think what he brought with him from Georgia was, you can do this, but you have to be committed to it. If it doesn't work for 5 or 6 plays, you can't stop doing it.
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? The results speak for themselves, because this is the first season in a while where Lamar's not getting injured near the end of the year, and like we've talked about, they have very balanced offense. So yeah, he's fixed a lot of problems on that offense for sure.
Well, and he told the theory of what to do with Lamar was make it a run pass option, so they're not so they can't spy Lamar every play. And that's, I think, a real critical thing. He took that element away. You can spy him, but you can't spy him on every play. Why? Because that linebacker or that safety who's spying him has got to be tied up either with a tight end or a running back or somebody else when you run the run-pass option well.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Definitely working out the way they planned.
And it doesn't mean that Lamar can't get hurt. It just means that the opportunities are less there for him to get hurt. Because when he runs, he's running, without the concern of, getting smashed before he gets out, gets more than 5 or 6 yards down the field. So, it's definitely something interesting. Well, that's our football aspect. Let's do a quick look over on the college basketball side. From your standpoint, and we talked about this before, the top 25 is not necessarily where your value is. And we've just really gotten into the college basketball season. Where have you found your value? Who would be your top? And let's just blow off the fact they don't have to be Power 5. Who is your 5 teams that if you had to just tell people, pay attention to these teams when you're wagering, who would those 5 teams be?
Well, that's a good question because I have when it comes to college basketball, I have a system, and
okay,
the system, it encompasses a lot of different teams. So where I find value in games is a lot of time it's with the smaller schools, the teams like High Point and things like that. Sacred Heart was a team I was riding early in the season, not so much anymore. I've talked about, obviously, Colorado State is a team you got to watch because they're a very good team. But now, they got into the rankings and then, things start to change. And that's the thing with the college basketball season. It's very fluid from obviously from this year to the new year. It changes quite a bit. Like, look at Michigan State. They already have 5 losses this year. A lot of those losses were against ranked teams. And you got to look at that and you got to say, is Michigan State just bad this year, or did Tom Izzo schedule like a madman?
So, which he normally does. So, yeah,
that's the thing, right? Like, so, when you're taking on every ranked opponent, you're going to take losses. And home advantage, I've noticed, has come a lot into play, especially when you get, if you're looking to bet on the ranked teams specifically, home advantage is definitely coming into play. Obviously, we saw UConn lose in Kansas. UConn's a better team than Kansas is. But as you said, Jim, you're not going to go into the Allen Fieldhouse and just, come away with an easy win, whether you're the best team in the country or not, because Kansas has a pretty damn good team themselves as well. So, yeah, definitely it's that's the thing is I give out a lot of small schools, and I don't necessarily ride a school for a while. So I think there's tons of value to be found in the smaller schools. But, as for a specific 5 to watch, I don't really have a specific 5 that I watch.
That's fair enough. You're basically just saying, look, this is what I do and how I get there. So, by the way, I sent a note recently to Michael Kelly, the AD at the University of South Florida, my alma mater, the Harvard of Hillsborough County, asking him if he could schedule down the road a game against IUPUI, just so, we could have a game with those 2 teams. And he sends me back a note going, why in the hell would you want to play IUPUI? And I said, because they are, the gambler's best friend. And he said, well, that must mean something. So he said, I'll check it. I'll check on it. Now that doesn't mean we're going to see them on their schedule, but hey, look, we can wish, right?
Hey, eyes out for that schedule next year. You might just see IUPUI on the schedule.
I said you scheduled Albany, for God's sake. Why can't you schedule IUPUI? So
It's an easy win. Come on, what are we thinking in South Florida? You
yeah,
easy win for the schedule and an easy cover to buy the pool. Come
I
on.
sug- I suggested he bring him in for a tournament because they have tournaments every season for you know a a tournament down there every season, and I said, he goes, why would you bring him in for a tournament? And I go, because that would guarantee you 2 losses as opposed to just one. So it's in the works. Let's put it that way. I'm not
It's
going
in
to
the
go
works.
that
I'm surprised this response wasn't nobody wants to see that. The IUPUI in the tournament.
well, yeah, but that's not the little tournament they have. If you're in the tournament, right, and you're the host, being South Florida, you want to win at least one game to get you the championship of the tournament, and B, it's not going to be hard to sell the other teams on having IUPUI in the tournament. So, not for nothing, they actually could be attractive from that standpoint. But we'll see how that works out. We'll see if my once a year check in clout has any effect on what the Bulls do in the future. But we'll keep an eye out. As the old saying, watch this space, just so we can get through them for folks who need to know. Purdue's number one. They flip flopped with Arizona. They beat Arizona on the weekend. Kansas is up to 2, which is not a surprise. Bill Self has a good basketball team there. Houston overranked at number 3, but it's early. Arizona in 4
They don't
spot.
play anybody, Jim. Like it's you
They're
gotta
playing
wait.
Texas. They're playing Texas State Thursday.
You
Come
gotta wait
on.
till they play some teams, and then maybe they won't be number 3. They're like 10-0, and they've played like Towson. And
Actually, they're
Texas State.
11-0. They'll be 12-0 by the time they finish with Texas State. Okay? But I mean, they're in the conference with Kansas. They're in the conference with, you know,
Baylor.
Baylor. They're in the conference with
Even BYU is like ranked in.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're not bad. Oklahoma's still there.
Oh yeah, they're number 7 now. Oklahoma.
Yeah.
They're like 10-0.
Right.
What a shock that's been. So yeah, let's see. We'll see when Houston gets into
Play
January.
with the big boy pants on, because here they come,
Wanted
boys.
to be here. Let's see it.
Well, I mean, the theory used to be, if you're in a power conference, right, you need to get to 20 wins. If you get to 20 wins, they'll get you in the tournament. So maybe the theory of the case for Houston is, if we can come up with 12 wins, on our cupcake schedule, then maybe we can snag, 8 wins in the conference. I think that's being generous, but okay. 8 wins in the conference will get us to 20. 20 will get us in the tournament. We'll see if that theory bears out. Number 5 is UConn. Number 6 is Marquette. As you said, Oklahoma is number 7. Number 8's Tennessee. They're playing. I don't even know where this team is. Tarleton? Tarle.
Tarleton State.
Tarleton State.
I think they're somewhere in Texas. I have bet on them before.
Okay. I have no idea. They're playing them. Surprise, spoiler alert, the game's being played in Knoxville, so if you want to book your tickets, get them now. Kentucky in the number 9 spot. And the Baylor Bears are your number 10 team. Real quick, North Carolina at 11. Creighton at number 12. Illinois, surprising team, 13. FAU, Florida Atlantic. And Florida Atlantic, by the way, I got kudos to them. They do not dodge scheduling hard. Their game, which comes up on Saturday, is against Arizona. So, judge for yourself. Gonzaga's at 15, and the aforementioned University of Colorado State AMEDEUS team is 16. BYU, you're right there, 17. Clemson is 18. Texas is 19. There's another loss for, potential loss for Houston. James Madison, who just seems to be good at everything, is 20. The Duke Blue Devils, sans Mike Krzyzewski, 21. Virginia, 22. Memphis, 23. Wisconsin in the number 24 spot. And the Rebels from Ole Miss are in the 25th spot in this week's men's college basketball poll.
You actually just reminded me. Wisconsin and Nebraska are two teams I think to watch this year because they are very good and they're underrated right now.
And normally they're not. So you're right. I mean, even there's going to be a jaundice eye on them regardless because they're going to go, wait a minute. They haven't been that good in a long while. Well, guess what? Doesn't have to be that long. You're only as good as your next game.
They just went into Kansas State and won, and Wisconsin obviously they got the win against Michigan State on the road. So
right.
Yeah, definitely those were two teams I was watching early on in the season, and yeah, they're definitely
well, somebody has been consistent but inconsistent at times. Don't sleep on Baylor either.
Yeah, definitely another good team. They really let me down over the weekend. They got absolutely destroyed by Michigan State at the gate. Wasn't even close, but they are a good team.
Well, I mean, sometimes you have a bad day, and in the movie Airport, it's the old "I picked a bad day to have a bad day," and so that's the situation with them. Let's wrap this puppy up here today with one rather interesting little tidbit. And that is that Major League Baseball is trying to orchestrate a deal. We know that their regional sports networks are, upside down the wrong way, with Diamond Sports going bankrupt. So there is a working relationship between Diamond Sports, Major League Baseball, and Amazon, where Amazon would buy a majority stake in Diamond, take on all of those teams, and then instantly become the streaming service for Major League Baseball. Possibly, obviously they have NBA and NHL teams, so keep an eye out for that. Because as we head into the baseball season, we got a long way to go to get there. But as we head there, if you want to know where your favorite team's going to be playing, it may be streaming on Amazon starting later in the year. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But that's something, a little tidbit that I found out that I'm sharing this afternoon. That keep an eye out for that, because if Amazon gets in with Diamond Sports, that would be a dream scenario, I think, for Diamond.
Yeah, I agree. Probably the best bet for baseball for sure.
Well, it would certainly help all the teams who are on Diamond Sports right now, because it would assure them of actually receiving a paycheck sometime in the not too distant future. So that's always helpful. All right, my friend. Speaking of always being helpful, here's your opportunity to tell us how you're going to help people win on a night when there's not a lot going on.
Yeah, make sure you check out my premium plays at bigal.com, at pickadvisor.com, and the insidersroom.com. I am on an absolute heater right now, coming off a 4-2 day, won my play on the pitch and my NFL NFC total of the year with the under in that game last night. Had an 0-2 day in college basketball, but rare 0-2 day. We're gonna bounce back today. I got 3 college basketball plays up, and coming off another perfect 2-0 NBA night where I cashed my NBA non-conference game of the month on the Cavaliers. I'm now on a 24-3 NBA run over the last 30 days. So when I say I'm on a heater, I am on an absolute heater. Make sure you go get my NBA Southwest game of the month for tonight. The 3 college basketball plays, and I got 2 EFL Cup plays that you can still get right now.
Wow. That record that you have in the NBA, I think LeBron should give you one of his rings. So that's a pretty impressive run, my friend.
Houston can't even touch the 24-3 record.
Not even playing his cupcakes that they do. So there you go. All right, well that sounds great, and we will definitely keep an eye out. Remember that it's also in the show box below, and you know it's going to be fun as we move here into bowl season. I'm personally getting ready because Thursday is USF's bowl game against who are they playing again? Shoot. They're playing against
Come
Syracuse.
on, Jim.
Syracuse. The orange. It hit me. It's the Syracuse Orangemen down in the Boca Raton Bowl. So
and your Bulls are going to win that one.
I hope so. I'm not so sure that Syracuse wants to. I think they just lost their quarterback, didn't they?
They lost their quarterback in like the last game of the season. They lost their head coach, who they fired already. Like what's going on over here?
There was some. I read something that the quarterback who was potentially supposed to start in that game has just entered the transfer portal.
All right, so there you go. Syracuse is just a mess. You want to take Jim's South Florida Bulls?
It's a fire sale going on in Syracuse. I don't know what the hell's going on.
It's pretty much a pick 'em. I think like your Bulls are like a 1.5-point dog right now.
Okay.
And isn't it near Florida? I forget which bowl they're in. They're in.
They're in Boca Raton. They're
right there at home.
Well, the joke is that Syracuse took the thing because there's so many native New Yorkers that live in that area that they might have a home field advantage. I don't think there's that many Syracuse graduates down there, so I'm pretty sure that we're safe. But it doesn't take long to travel. You can get on the bus in a couple hours. You're in Boca. So, and by the way, that's a clever. If you ever have a chance to Google it, go ahead and Google a look at the stadium that is FAU's stadium. It really is really nice. It's right on the ocean, which gives you a really cool look at what's going on. So the only thing I would be concerned about at all is the weather for that day, and hopefully it'll be a nice evening to watch some football. So there we go. All right, boys and girls, we've had fun. By all means, come back and see us tomorrow. For Amadeus, I'm Jim. Be well.